welcome to fmtraining.tv. My name is Margaret. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. Hope y'all are having a lovely day. Hey, Jacob, how you doing?
Welcome.
FileMaker 2025 was released as of this Tuesday. We are currently covering one of the new features, well, new-ish, sort of. It was available in the last product, but it's been improved in this one, which is Let's Encrypt in FileMaker,
Mhm.
also known as how to save a lot of money on your SSL certificates.
Yep.
Also, as a side note, since today is not a Claris day, I'll do the opening spiel, which is, hey, if you like our live stream videos, you should go pick up one of our paid subscriptions. Once in a while, I get people who hit me up and go like, hey, I really like the live stream format, or rather, I like the concept of you doing live streams to talk about FileMaker, but I don't like the format. We have a very conversational format, not necessarily super lecture-y, which doesn't work for a lot of people. So if you really need really concise, highly animated videos with a very dynamic presenter, because Richard talks through most of them, you will find, I think, that our video streams work really well for you. They're like 4 to like 30 minutes long at the longest, but most are in like the 10-minute range, and we cover a huge variety of topics. So feel free to pick that up and support us. And if you have already, thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. So with that all being said, where are we starting today, Jacob? What's
Transfer
happening?
control to the bridge. I'm gonna hit share. All right, so I'm gonna start. This will be slightly more presentation-y. I did not build a Keynote or something like this. Um, but this will be slightly more presentation-y. I wanted to do a little bit of a presentation day on SSL generally. So back to what Margaret said. This is, we'll call it the second revision of Claris's Let's Encrypt integration. So what is SSL? SSL is secure connections between your, we'll call them FileMaker clients, but that includes like browsers for WebDirect and then of course Pro and Go talking to server. It makes sure that you and your customer's data is secure when it's going between those 2 points. So if you are completely in a local network and that's the only place that any of your pros or goes or whatever are communicating, you may be like, oh, I don't even care about that. Like, we manage our own network security. Okay. A lot of our customers and a lot of FileMaker users, will say generally, but our clients for sure, use their FileMaker servers over the open internet. They have their iPhones out in the field and they're on 4G or 5G or whatever's available, or offline if they're in the boonies. Maybe using 360works Mirror Sync to do a syncs at the end. In any case, they're going to be communicating to their FileMaker server with over a secured connection. A secured connection requires an SSL certificate. SSL certificates are I'm going to say something that's slightly wrong here and tell you why it's slightly wrong, but SSL certificates are in general only issuable to a domain. I think that's changing this fall, if I remember correctly, but historically, like I always get a question. It's like, hey, can I get an SSL for an IP address? The answer to that question historically for like 25 years has been no. I think it's literally changing this year. Sorry, everybody. But in general, you're going to have a domain. And that is, in general, also going to be a corporate domain or some sort of domain that is specific to your FileMaker server, your application, your deployment, whatever. So that's kind of basics. The thing that I have on screen here that I wanted to show, there was a conversation the very first time that we ever presented anything about Let's Encrypt that I wanted to go over again, and that's why I'm doing a little bit of the basics. I'm actually going to probably do 2 full live demos today, which will be it'll be the same live demo technically, but I want to show it in both places. So one of the original conversations about like Let's Encrypt, how you get an SSL, what that means. So classically, and for a lot of our clients, they're used to, I'll use GoDaddy as the example, but Network Solutions or Thought, if you're old school and you remember some of the old SSL providers, or VeriSign, companies like that, they provide SSL certificates. In general, they used to be, you could get them for like what, 2, 3, 5 years or something like that. These days it's like 1 year. And that's what it sounds like. You have to like validate control over your domain that I just mentioned. You have to have a domain. You validate control over it. They go, okay, cool. You give them it's called a certificate signing request. That is what those words sound like. You create a key make sure I'm on video. Yes, I am on video. So you create a key. I just want to use my hands for, um, you create a key that you use that key. You say, hey, GoDaddy. I'm going to use them as in my example. Hey, GoDaddy. I have this key. Here's a request for you to assign a certificate with all of the little details packed up in it for them. And they go, okay, yeah, cool. They are the ones that validate. In this case, they're like the provider, sub GoDaddy and for whoever you might be using. They will validate your ability to control that domain. There's several different ways to do that. We're going to go over one of them today. And then assuming everything, goes well, basically, you've paid them your monies, they validated control, blah, blah, blah. They did their job and you did your job. They give you the SSL certificate. That's a collection of files. You install those files in your FileMaker server. Again, I'm talking about the classic way to do this. You then restart FileMaker server to load everything up, and then right, you can punch in mytestdomain.com and into Pro, and then it'll load up and it'll say, yeah, great, and you get your little green lock that should, on the hosts menu, demonstrating yes, we have a validated and secure connection to our FileMaker server. Great. Everything after that is everything that you know about FileMaker. You can log into your databases. You can, change users, re-log in, run your scripts, whatever you're doing. So a thing that changes from what I just described with Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt is different and new. It's not like literally new these days. It's, oh God, we got to be close to 10 years old these days. The difference is it's completely automated certificates. And so the parts before where I was like, there's a human like taking SSL certificates and moving them around or installing them in a FileMaker server or whatever, that kind of manual activity that took place doesn't exist in this. And so what you're going to do is basically go to your FileMaker server, and I'm going to demonstrate this. You're going to go to your FileMaker server. You're going to say, hey, I want an SSL certificate. Let's Encrypt is, there's technically multiple free SSL providers. Let's Encrypt is the most well-known one. I think there's one called Zero SSL that does Europe. Maybe the Europeans can address that in one of the comments. I don't know if Claris' stuff supports that or not, so I can't answer that question right now. But Let's Encrypt, at least, they're a big nonprofit. They have a bunch of funding. A bunch of the big tech companies got together and wrote them checks so that we could have a more secure connection to, just generally speaking, all web services. It's a big nonprofit project. So you're going to go to your FileMaker server, to the admin console. You're going to punch in a domain to that and say, hey, give me an SSL. That is going to go talk to Let's Encrypt, like their organization, who's going to do the part, the earlier part that I just said, where like GoDaddy would validate, hey, you have control over this domain. Let's Encrypt is going to do that, but this whole thing happens under the hood. So you go tell them, I want an SSL for this domain. They go, great. They're going to give you two things back. One is a code, and you gave them the domain that you wanted, and they're going to give you a code back. When they do that, you're going to put that code available on that domain in a predetermined location. If you can do that, you've just demonstrated control over that domain, right? Because what they can do out from the internet is reach into your server, and they gave you the code, so they know that like secret token, if you will. They're going to grab it, say, yep, it's the same one, got it, good to go. You've demonstrated control, next part of the process. The cool part of this new integration with FileMaker server is all of what I just said is you've punch the domain in and then hit request certificate. That's like the whole thing. It's like 2 clicks. So, and again, there's no like I go on the command line and type in like give me an SSL CSR for like you don't do any of that. You literally and I'm going to demonstrate this in about 10 minutes, but you just go in, you punch the domain in, all the stuff I just said happens under the hood, and then you're at the end, everything, again, like I said before, assuming everything goes well and everybody does their part of the job, you get an SSL certificate back. FileMaker server kind of accepts that, gets it back from Let's Encrypt, basically, has issued the certificate, puts it in the relevant locations. One note, as with all previous 30 some years of SSL with FileMaker server, you do still have to restart FMS to like load everything up again, but
Yes,
that's like old school. They have fixed 95% of the problem. Would you accept a 95% solution?
that's
Okay.
an A.
Yeah. So background information mostly done. There's one technical detail, and it is this chart on screen that I want to go over really quick. I just wanted to say, like, that's the audit. There's the manual way, the automated way. Okay, next piece of information. So this chart that's on screen is a slightly old, like we don't use port 16,000 anymore for admin console, for example.
Hmm.
Um, but things that you need to know. So I talked about reaching out to, for example, Let's Encrypt or even GoDaddy if you're doing it that way, and coming and then Let's Encrypt's ability to talk to your FileMaker server to validate that it's on the domain with the little code that they give it. I'm going to ignore the technical details of that because it doesn't really matter for this. Um, you your FileMaker server has to have port 80 open and available, and reachable from the internet. Technically, specifically from Let's Encrypt, but generally speaking, like you're going to be on the public internet with something like this. And so their servers, wherever they are, and I assume they're all over the world, one of them is going to reach back out and check that code basically that they gave you. Your FileMaker server is going to put it in a specific location. They're going to check it. That's how they validate control over the domain. That means, and this is why this chart's on the screen, you need to have open in your firewall the appropriate ports. The holes need to be open and available and plumbed all the way through. So all of this, humorously, happens over port 80, actually. That's unencrypted. The reason for that is because if you're requesting a certificate, you can't have one yet. So the reason that this works and is secure is because they gave you that code. You reached out to them. That was a secure connection. They give you this little validation token back, basically. That comes through a secure connection back to you. You post it up. They can request it unsecure because unless you could somehow, again, intercept it or something like that, which is what the secure connection prevents, it's fine, basically. After that, you can close all that stuff down again. I want to note, I think there were some bugs with it and it works well now, if I'm understanding correctly. So FileMaker server on what, Ubuntu? This is like a platform specific note, if you will. We're going to demo Windows and Linux today. On Ubuntu specifically, it opens up the firewall for port 80, like I just said, for the validation process, and then closes it again once it's done. That's a thing to know. For your like off, so that's like a host firewall. It's on the specific server that we're talking about. On a network firewall perspective, you will still have to have 80 open. The reason for that, and this is the biggest possible note with regards to Let's Encrypt, it's great. They're free. Again, it's all automated, and you put a script into your FileMaker server and it renews it for you. It's amazing. There's one big note. Those SSL certificates, while free, only last between 60 and 90 days. From what I can tell with we'll say the default integration, basically what Claris has built for us, there's like a checkbox for it, which we'll show in a minute. If you enable automatic renewal of your SSL, this Let's Encrypt SSL that you get for free, it's going to come back in 60 days for renewal. The certificate itself is a 90-day certificate, and then 60 days later, so a month short or whatever, a month shy, it's going to come back and try to renew. There's various reasons why that's early. The short version is sometimes we'll say there's like an SSL issuance problem. This is like Let's Encrypt is having a server issue, basically. And in that case, you don't want it to fail and then your website goes offline because the SSL expires. It wasn't able to renew it in time. And so basically they go, 90-day certificate, and you start trying to renew at 60 days. In general, it's going to work the first time, but just in case, like, it's fine, basically. It can come back the next day and try again.
That makes sense. There's a question about, is there a cost comparison for certs?
No. The cost comparison that I have is GoDaddy charges $80 to $100 a year for a single site domain validated certificate, which is essentially what we're talking about here. That's like the SSL industry marketing name for this product, if you will. Those are $80 to $100 a year. There's some discounts, sales, et cetera, et cetera. Some of their competitors are about half the cost, I think. There's, you can get them in the like $25 to $40 range, basically. Let's Encrypt is just free. But again, the one big asterisk is they're short-term SSL certificates, so like 90 days. So,
Yep. And then someone wants the URL to the page that we are looking at, which I will
oh
go
yeah,
find.
Bev, I will not. I can post it. Beverly
Ba-da-ba-da-ba.
has. There you go. You can copy that around.
I will copy that around to all the places. And
Yeah.
then the
I
last, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just to say, separately from the SSL discussion, I found this document to be really helpful because we were originally trying to figure out how all the different firewalls and stuff interact for like WebDirect and like how to plumb if you have like a primary and a secondary machine setup. How do you plumb? You have like a Windows file or like a FileMaker server that's inside the firewall, behind the VPN, hidden in a corner under under a desk in a closet, whatever. And then you want your WebDirect machine to be a WebDirect worker, a secondary, out accessible to your vendors or anyway. So
Hmm.
we found this document originally for that, and I've kept a hold of the link for that reason because it maps out where all the ports are, and it's got you can see over here in the bottom left corner some of the secondary machine, the like port 16,002 internal
Hmm.
internal communication ports and stuff like that. Anyway,
Oh,
um,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, those are like local host on the FileMaker server. So like I don't know which of those talks to which, but if it's all like a single machine configuration with WebDirect, some of those
Mhm.
things are going port 16,002 or 3 to talk like
Between the
my
actual,
arms. Yeah, like FileMaker server talks to WebDirect
yes.
or likewise the other way. Yeah, like via localhost. I'm doing the little we're doing a
Yes.
U-turn here on the server.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the comment about the open port 80 being the other 5% of the problem. So,
Yep. Yeah. Um, Yeah, the that actually it's kind of a sidebar. The port 80 change. So I suspect most of our clients are going to end up using this Let's Encrypt integration on the Linux FileMaker server platform and
hmm.
probably some Macs actually. We have a good number of on-site customers that still use that. Um, the port 80 change is kind of interesting because Claris did that where they like on a like technically speaking, narrowly, engineering and computer nerds talking here, technically port 80 isn't needed anymore. A lot of the browsers are starting to default to SSL, just like you put a domain in and it tries a secure connection first. And then if that fails, it tries an unsecure one. Okay. Um, used to be the opposite direction. We would try an unsecured connection, and then when you get there, you may be told by the server, yo, actually we support secure connections, or it actually just sends you to the secure endpoint, and then you get your web page and do whatever you're doing. Um, so one of the interesting, I'll say, problems, or I expect user issues. Users in this case, it's probably server administrators, honestly, for the most part. One of the issues that people are going to run into is for the browsers that are still trying the unsecured port first, you're going to have a challenge the first time you try this because you're going to try and connect up to your server. You'll put your little domain in your browser, like trying to, go get in and override the invalid SSL certificate because it comes with the test one. I'm gonna demo that here in a minute. Um, do all that stuff. Do your little changes. Get in, put the domain in, and it times out. And the reason for that is because port 80 is closed. You have nothing to talk to. You have nothing to tell you, oh, there's a secure access port on it. You can flip over to 443 and keep going. Like, even if the SSL is invalid or whatever, like it won't, it just waits. It just sits there and like the browser looks at you like, hey, human, would you tell me what I'm supposed to be doing right now? Um, we'll see. It's let's see. Oh,
We have
excellent
about the,
question.
yes, we have a question
Yes.
about the, does the auto renewal force a reboot of the server? How does it
Uh-huh.
handle closing files?
I manually tested the answer to that question. And I am both pleased and displeased for different reasons each way. To report, it does not automatically reboot your FileMaker server. So there is no consideration for how the files are closed or any of that other stuff. Um,
That is probably a good thing, but it is a little bit disappointing.
yeah. So I it's worth a short conversation. So, just full step back from like Let's Encrypt and SSL at all. RCC doesn't endorse automatically rebooting FileMaker servers, both by policy and for historic reasons. There have been many good reasons not to do that over the years, and it mostly centers around whether FileMaker server can get the files closed in time. And part of that conversation, although not the whole thing, has been you booting clients off, force disconnecting and stuff like that, and whether that's reasonable, whether you can get that done in time, etc. And then you have the second step, which is what comes immediately after, actually closing the database files. That whole conversation has made a lot of progress and improvement over the last few years because, for example, just not even that old of a version, talking about 18, I had a file that took 12 and a half hours to close on a FileMaker Server 18. Good luck with trying to auto reboot for SSL for that. Good luck. We removed a double-digit gigabytes of container data from the file, and it had to do
Okay.
the compaction process at close time. So there's a whole
Got
set of
it.
changes in the product since 18 that address like that part of the problem. One. Two, there's at least two different specific changes I can point out that help with the client disconnection conversation. One is actually three. Oh, I think I can even think of three. One is they more reliably disconnect. This is a whole old conversation about ghost clients on the admin console. For those of you who've been in FileMaker for a long time, there's a huge improvement on that axis. Second part, still disconnecting clients. We have the new in 21. We're on 22 now, but new in 21 of blocking new client connections. That goes hand in hand with a forced disconnect that works more reliably. In I think late versions of 21, it maybe it was 21.1, I think is when they maybe introduced that. Don't
Hmm.
quote me, I may be incorrect, but on the exact version, sorry. Um, they changed it so that when, as in a case like this, you're trying to restart FileMaker server automatically, it automatically triggers the block new connections functionality. That's part of the shutdown routine now. And that prevents the situation. It's like not the disconnect and it's not the prevent from new connections, technically. What it is it prevents the situation where you're telling the software to go down, you're telling the files to close, and you've got new people trying to get in and do their job. And you could just stop that. And then the third part is actually a lot of like online maintenance that happens with the database itself that prevents the first thing that I said, which is taking, say, minutes, seconds, minutes to hours to close database files because they weren't like the maintenance hadn't been done. There's like a
Hmm.
file format rationalization that happened. There's also like committing all the little changes that you've made, and like there's all kinds of intermediary temp files that get pushed into the file. There's all that kind of stuff that goes on. All of those things have made drastic and substantial improvements in the last few years in the product that makes all of this a lot easier. So returning to the conversation about like automatic rebooting and whether this does it, that's why I'm torn in both directions. We don't endorse that because, as with everything I just said, I talked about all those improvements, there's still a substantial risk of like crashing the file, basically. And for our definitions, crashing the file is merely not having closed it safely,
Hmm.
because that's a risk factor. It is. It is a substantially smaller risk factor than it used to be, but it's not zero. And due to kind of how the file format is, probably won't ever be literally zero. We're just going to get close enough to perfect that the difference doesn't matter. I think that's the long-term conversation here.
Hmm.
Um, and so it won't auto reboot.
Safety
So
of your files over convenience.
correct. Yeah. And so it's like, I actually would like it to. Um, that's kind of spicy. I have questions about whether that's still a good idea. It's probably bad policy for the reasons I just explained.
Hmm.
But also, I think one challenge people are going to run into with this is it's a 60-day to 90-day certificate. You have to be rebooting your server at least that often. Um, it will, assuming you're rebooting your server that often, basically happen silently in the background, and you probably actually won't ever have to care. Um, but that's a big, like, making sure that you're like doing monthly Windows updates for example.
Hmm.
That's just an easy one, um, which causes a reboot, and then you will just ignore the SSL portion of the like. If you're in that situation, basically, you're just going to ignore the SSL part of the conversation because you're like, oh, I have like an RMM application, remote management something,
Hmm.
does auto Windows updates and you know, that kind of stuff, and it'll reboot at the end of the updates installation. Perfect. That in a situation like this and with something like this set up will result in basically free, automatic in the background SSL for you. Um, Again, like I said, not completely risk-free, but it'll do fine.
It should
It'll do
probably be
fine.
fine.
Yeah, it'll do fine.
Uh,
Um,
can you get notified when the update runs? So, like when your SSL certificate is renewing, are you told?
so that's a thing I don't know. I forced the renewal and didn't receive an email.
But that's a forcing, not necessarily an automatic comeback. So yeah. Hmm.
Correct. So I don't know. Um, that's my I'm always the person that is emailing Claris immediately after they make releases like this to, for example, have them give me log entries when certain things operate. Um, that's actually my biggest one is we used to have all these things that would run silently and like I want something in event log when like stuff's going on. Even if I'm not looking at event log, who am I? You know, I'm not going to sit there looking at the log all day.
Yes,
But a
but
lot of people can go look at their log. They go look at their log when there's a problem because they've discovered this issue. Oh, my SSL expired. Like, oh, it renewed 30 days ago and I just didn't. Oh, okay. Like, right. Okay. Or um, we have, for example, at least on our Windows servers, the event logs basically emailed to me daily. Not like the whole thing. There's a selection of interesting entries that we pull out. But for example, the SSL renewing would be a great example of an interesting entry you would like to hear about. So
okay.
I think things like that, notification and management, are probably going to be the bigger challenges here. In my testing, it basically just works. So um, we have one more. Yes, I agree with Beverly's comment 100%. And I'm going to repeat it verbatim because it's perfect. Logs can save your bacon. And the save your bacon is italicized just for the people who are not on Discord.
Yeah, it's a
And that's
double emphasis.
completely correct. Yeah. Um, let's
There's a comment
see.
about all certificates needing to be renewed after 30 days. Is that is Let's Encrypt changing how it does things?
So that is a good, I wouldn't call it a question. Dirk, would you mind writing a little more on that? So the stuff that I am aware of related to short certificates, truly short, I know coming down from a year, 90 days or 60 days sounds pretty short. Um, we, we humanity, I'm not talking about ownership like me. We people got together this spring a couple of months ago, if I'm not mistaken, and it's not implemented completely yet, but there's we're going to end up with 7-day certificates. So short, like short 7 days, short. Um, and so I don't know if that's going to accompany an additional, shortening of the 60 to 90-day certificates or something like that. My understanding was those super short certs. It's if 7 days doesn't make sense to the audience, think there's no human involved at any point in the SSL. It's like a computer automated requests its own certificate, and then they
Mm-hmm.
just cycle them every 7 days, for example. That can be done automatically. What that also lets you do is if we'll say something falls offline or falls out of compliance, it becomes safe because 7 days later the whole thing breaks and dies. Assuming you're like force enforcing SSL or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great security mechanism. But it's like under the hood for automated kind of systems that run in the background you don't talk about. Uh, uh, um,
As of March 15th,
there it
2029, the
is.
maximum for TLS certificates will be 47 days.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so thank you for the additional detail. So the shortened certificate, the other part of the conversation is, yes, the 60 to 90 days will be shortened by 2029. So we have some time. Um, and that is they're gonna basically, so like right now we have I think a maximum SSL certificate length of it's like 390 some days. It's basically 13 months, I think, like 1 day short of or something like that. Um, but just over a year essentially. It allows you some like overlap for renewal shenanigans and problems like that. And then these Let's Encrypt certificates that we're talking about now are going to be 60 to 90 days. And then the future change that we're now further talking about, this is 2029, early spring, 47 days will be the top side. So instead of 300 and whatever I said, 390 something days down to maybe 60, no, 47, but it's going to be 4 years from now. So, um,
We got some time. Okay, so I'm going to back up briefly to Stefane's question before we grab Malo's
sure.
question, which is the SSL certificate only installed on the FileMaker server? Does a client or FileMaker Pro need to install anything?
It is only installed on the FileMaker server. Yes. There's some. I'm going to add a note to that because there's a little wiggle as part of this. But no, you don't need to install anything in Pro or like client machines or anything like that. No, nothing necessary. The one wiggle I will note is as part of the like we're kind of getting to the point where FileMaker server can do what are we at? 10 or 10, I'm not supposed to call them workers anymore, secondaries, WebDirect machines, right? They don't run FileMaker server, they only run WebDirect as an application. Um, those can do Let's Encrypt too. So like separately. So
Oh,
your FileMaker server, yes, has its own SSL because Pro or Go are going to be talking to that. Um, and then if you have a bunch of WebDirect users, and you could theoretically have up to 1,000 WebDirect, browser connections, basically, right? Browser users on 10 WebDirect secondary worker machines, whatever. Theoretically, I think each of those WebDirect secondaries could also have a Let's Encrypt SSL that it also self-manages. Each one of those is going to be its own domain, and each one of those is going to have its own 60-day, 90-day schedule, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But
okay.
yeah, that all is
Interesting.
like independently manageable on each of the different machines that you may have. So
We had the question from Malo and then the follow-up from Bev, which is a good one. How can I test the security and reliability of this encryption? And Beverly's response question was, do you have specific requirements that need to be followed?
yeah,
So,
I actually don't have an answer to that question. There, I guess like 5 full steps back, pulling completely out of this context. Um, the math that is used for this encryption is the same everywhere. And it is also why I said, like, when I'm talking about GoDaddy as like a manual SSL place that you might buy from, they are completely interchangeable with any and all other SSL certificate authorities, like both for the purposes of my own example, but also just generally speaking, because the inputs, like a key and the certificate signing request, and then the SSL certificate itself that is signed by them, right? That's what they're doing. Um, that's like the service that you're paying for theoretically, and their compliance and this kind of stuff.
mhm.
Um, that all is the same no matter where or how you're doing it or anything else. Even if it's like a question about the difference between Let's Encrypt and GoDaddy, you're still going to be doing that math in FileMaker Server and or Nginx or IIS or what Mac is Apache still, I think. And then in Pro, go relevant web browser, Chrome, Safari, whatever. And all of those, some of those share the same math libraries for this stuff, some of them don't. All of it has been audited and had politely the heck beaten out of it by internet ne'er-do-wells, politely, to try and find problems. Some of them are, well, we call them researchers. Some of them are teenagers with too much time. Both of them find problems.
hmm
Um, and then we fix the problems. So let's see. Do.
So the question from Stefane, maybe we should do like a really quick overview of what is an SSL. I know that you kind of covered that at the beginning, but
Yeah. So I'll read the question and a little bit of background, and
Hmm.
then we're gonna jump into the demos because I'm gonna issue two SSLs before we get out of this
Oh,
hour
oh,
because I
oh,
want to.
yes.
That's part of it. Yeah, I want to show you how easy this is. It's hilarious. I'm gonna do the worst. It is a live demo. Like I'm gonna wait for DNS to propagate live demo because
Ooh,
I intentionally didn't even set the server up that far this morning. One of them
okay.
is, the other's not. Um, So the question is the SSL attached to, for example, the MAC address, which is like the hardware ID of the network chip on the computer, essentially, or the IP address of the FileMaker server? And the very short answer is no to both. Um, the SSL is attached to the domain, like let's encrypt rcconsulting.com, right? Like that, like, I'm not going to actually use that one today, but like if I put a FileMaker server on that address, I install an entry for that address that points at my FileMaker server, an A DNS record, for example. Uh, I can get an SSL for that domain, and they don't necessarily need to even directly process the IP address itself. Um, and if I change that IP, right, I'm going to deploy a server. I got an SSL for it. What happens? The machine blows up. We need to get a new FileMaker server because it's been 6 months. Oh, we'll say in the example, classic SSL certificate lasts a year. I get the domain. It's my company domain. We're going to put our FileMaker server on it. It's not a test. Shh. We're not testing. Shh. Uh, we put it on there, right? We install the SSL. We get the DNS entry set up. It's pointing. We validate it with GoDaddy. They go, okay, great. Thanks, bro. Give me the SSL. Good. All right. We install it in FileMaker server. 6 months later, disaster strikes, right? The machine, we'll say it's an on-site server. We have catastrophic hardware failure, but we had backups. So we're good, right? Okay.
Hmm.
So we have a huge problem. My office doesn't have internet because of our, we'll say, flooding. That's a recent and relevant weather event that might happen. And so our modem and router and the network hardware at the office is all messed up. We were uploading backups daily to the cloud, so we're good to go. Okay, right? We can recover the business. My hair is on fire, but like it's manageable.
You can put it out. Yes.
But we can put it out. We have the technology. So we get the building figured out, get our new office space. We're going to have a new IP address, new network card, fresh everything, right? But the domain's the same, and we don't need to change anything about the SSL certificate because we're still going to be let'sencrypt.rcconsulting.com. Great. Okay. So that SSL, like the actual files, the key, and everything else, assuming we didn't throw them away or lose them in this terrible flood, is still viable, still works. We're going to need to update the entry that points that domain at the IP address to point to our new office where our new FileMaker server is, the shiny brand new one that we just got. We took our backup, we set everything back up again, turned it back on. Perfect. So you do that, you go update your DNS entry. That's going to take, I don't know, 5 minutes to 12 hours to update or whatever. I think we still tell people 72 hours, but I haven't seen a DNS update take 72 hours in a very long time. uh, Managing customer expectations, that's primarily why 72 hours,
Hmm. Hmm.
honestly. Um, and so you do your update, you point at your new office, your FileMaker server has got the SSL installed, you got your backup put back in place, your people are even using it on the local network as the new office is up and running, at least partially. Okay, cool, right? Disaster recovery success story. At no point did I have to purchase a new SSL or even change anything about the existing one. I just changed the IP address in the DNS entry at that level, which is like not the SSL at all and may not have anything to do with that company even. I've changed the DNS entry to point to our new place. Nothing else about this has to change. That hopefully that explains like all the different parts of like the moving pieces and stuff, and that's helpful. Um, Perfect. You said the answer was clear. Excellent.
There you go.
Um,
So,
do, do,
do you want to
do.
get into the demos before I snag more
Yeah,
questions
let's
to
not
fling at
ask
you?
more questions first. So where are we at? So I added these two and I searched for let's this is very quick Route 53 DNS in Amazon. We use it for management. Um, We're going to have two SSLs here. These are our two addresses. We have a Let's Encrypt Ubuntu and a Let's Encrypt Windows. You want to do the hard one or the easy one first?
Let's do the easy one first, and then we
Want
can
to do the
make the
easy
hard.
one first? All right, we'll do the
Yeah.
easy one first. All right, cool. So we're going to do Windows first. Windows is easier, and I'll show you why. So it's not, it's the same, but the demo is easier.
Yes.
I have to show you super secret systems administrator dropouts, also known as incognito mode in your browser. So I set up this. This is a Windows Server 2022, or yeah, Windows Server 2022 running FileMaker Server 22/2025. Yep, fresh setup. Really didn't do anything to it except put a password in, and I don't even think I changed the auto restart, which is probably illegal by company. Oh, I turned that one off. All right, cool. We're good. I'm compliant. Um, see if Richard was going to yell at me for my demo for having auto open databases enabled. Anyway, so plain FileMaker server. I've done exactly one thing, which is I created, so other than we'll say basic FileMaker server install, you guys can click next and put your admin console password, username, password in. That's fine. So I'm going to take this address, and this is an A record. So you could have quad A for if you had an IPv6 or whatever. This is the only like relevant preparatory work that I've done here. You'll need to do, this is what I was talking about with the DNS entries and how you could just change this number to the new office IP because you got flooded out and you're in a new location. Okay. So we're going to do Let's Encrypt Windows. We're going to come over here. This is our Windows FileMaker server, fresh setup yesterday. I'm going to go to Configuration tab, and we're going to go to SSL. And we have so most of these buttons look the same, although they are green in this version instead of that the lovely blue
I was
from the
about to say,
left,
did the
actually.
color change? Okay.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay.
So half of the buttons are now green, and that's how you know it's 22. I don't know. It's a good color. It's fine.
It's an acceptable color. Yeah.
Yeah, it works fine. So when you first install a FileMaker server, if you do nothing, the default option is use Claris's test certificate. That's what's on screen right now, which is why it says certificate installed. And then everything that's listed on this screen screams gross negligence and illegality because, and they actually, a couple versions ago, added this, which I love. No, it's testing. Testing. Capital T. Test.
I appreciate that.
Just so everyone's clear. If you change nothing during the setup process, basically you'll go click like two buttons and you'll put your username password in for the admin console, and then the first thing it asks you is, how do you want to deal with SSL? The flow won't be different, but I'm going to demonstrate that from scratch on the Ubuntu system after this. This one, as you can tell, is slightly, lightly pre-done. We have one new button. This is the whole button. That's it. The other buttons existed, so this would be if you want to do a click buttons on the admin console to create a CSR, take that CSR to, again, I'll always use GoDaddy as the example because that's the one that we tell people, but there's like 600 companies that do it, so pick one. Create a CSR, take it to your certificate authority, they process it out, give you the SSL certificate, cool, right? That's the manual way. If you did it outside of FileMaker Server, you'd have no real involvement with FileMaker Server. For example, you generate the SSL certificate in CSR with like the OpenSSL command line utility or something on your Mac or Linux, or I think you can install that on Windows these days probably. Great. You're going to import custom certificate. If you need to declare that you made a mistake, declare bankruptcy, and delete everything and start over again, you're going to have your delete files button. Cool. So we're going to request Let's Encrypt certificate. This has delightfully one option, which you can see on screen right now. And that's the domain. And so I'm going to paste Let's Encrypt Windows, which I copied from behind.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's only one other option, and I think I said it was wrong. I think I said it was a checkbox. It's one of Claris's classic sliders here. This is the thing to note. That is Edge being silly. This is the thing to note. If you turn this on again, 60 days is what Claris has picked for the automatic renewal. It's adjustable. And you can also, which I'll show you the button for that in a minute, force the renewal if necessary. So I'm going to turn it on for giggles. And then we're going to do the email. That works great. That's just our like notification spam endpoint address, if you will. Humorously, this stuff was all probably stabilized before. Well, technically, emails are no longer like you don't do them anymore as of a month ago or something. I don't think they've turned it off yet, and it won't block anything or break anything. There's no issue here. But Let's Encrypt, like the organization, was paying a lot of money for email reminders for renewals and stuff. That mostly has been solved, we'll call it, by other means. In other words, the automations, the integrations, the companies that do this for you, like all that stuff has gotten good enough. They don't need to provide the emails anymore, and they can just save the money since it's a nonprofit anyway. So they're just, I think they still accept the emails, but they don't
Do anything
after
with it. Yeah.
after like I don't know, last month, this month, somewhere this summer or something like that, they stopped. So they were sending me screaming emails because we have a bunch of Let's Encrypt certificates at RCC for our websites. So that's it. We're going to turn that on. I put the email in. As noted, that should be a good email, but that is also going away. It's technology changes. I'm not going to test validation because I know it's going to work. If you want to, what this will do is it does basically a dry run of the SSL certificate acquisition, which is all the parts that I stated before. We're going to reach out to Let's Encrypt. We're going to get the code. We're going to post the code where it needs to go. Let's Encrypt's going to validate that it's at that location and available, proving control of everything, but it's not going to do anything. No SSL will be issued in that case. That's it. So I'm just going to do this. It's going to give us a nice little lovely yellow pending.
Post-it note.
Yep, post-it note. I think the dialogue after this is ugly. No, hey, it gave me a pretty one this time. Awesome.
Ooh.
I'm glad I demoed this on Windows. Maybe we'll see the ugly one on Linux. It's a little one of the variants of this is a little rough. You end up with like two modals on top of each other. It's fine. This is as it says. Certificate request succeeded. I now have a freshly acquired Let's Encrypt SSL, good for 90 days. For what did I do? Let's Encrypt Windows at rcc.com. That's it. So
Okay,
I'm gonna click done. Hold. There's two more details before you start asking questions. So first, on. Oh. Don't tell me it just restarted itself, because I tested this earlier and it didn't do it. Watch me be wrong about which live demo was harder.
I gave you the hard one by accident.
Wait a minute. What are we doing? Live demo, everybody.
It's magic.
What are we doing? What is doing work? Give me the list. Did we launch a FileMaker server? I don't see it. Okay. It came back. Okay, the admin console's here. What changed? What did it do? My question is, did it restart? Because I don't know. All right, we're going to do a little emergency live on air. You can see me do my job. Let's check the logs. We're going to go to the event log. I'm going to see, did it restart? Let's find out, everybody. Did it restart? Nope. Perfect. Live demos, everybody. You can. I will read it for the people who find that text to be tiny and with terrible contrast. Certificate request succeeded. That was the demo part. And then the admin server process terminated abnormally. We love a live demo. It is now working again and nothing else restarted, so I can continue with the demo. Perfect.
Okay, right. Cool. Fabulous. It just had a moment.
It just had a moment. The SSL is not in. So the SSL is probably installed in the web server, which on Windows is IIS. but likely, which I think I can test. Let's test it. Oops, not that. Sorry. Uh, Paste. Okay, here's my server. Are we? Yeah. Hey, we're good to go. Okay, so let me click my weird little thing that looks like a settings menu. Cert is valid and issued on 12:50.
A minute ago.
Oh, it's 1 hour off. I wonder how I managed that. Interesting. Anyway, expiring October 9th. That's your key detail. That's 90 days from now. So that part works. This is easy to do on Windows, is restarting the like web server and stuff. You can do that live. This is how it's always worked on FileMaker Server though. So the actual FMS, like FM Server D, which is what Pro and Go talk to, doesn't have a fresh SSL right now. It's still technically loaded with the test certificate. So then you come in here and you do your FileMaker Server restart. This is safe, and I didn't go close the databases because there are no databases on this server, not even the test. There's a flag to remove it these days, and so we don't put it
Yes.
in.
There's no databases floating around getting murdered in the background.
Yep. You had a question, or you had some queued?
No, there's just basically someone was marveling over that's all. You click the button and that's it, and we're
Yeah.
done.
Yep. Yeah. And that's why I was like, so one, it's great. Again, the biggest and most major implication is you probably the way that this NITA will be threaded for most of our clients is they're going to have, we'll call it quarterly updates, 90-day SSL, and so we're just going to schedule monthly or every other month or something like that. Windows updates, Linux updates, whatever updates, operating system updates. Mac, hey, you should update your Macs too. And so at that time, right, you'll do your little security patches or whatever, take FileMaker Server down safely, and then that'll just be a reboot from everything there's perspective. But what you'll be doing is loading the fresh SSL, and that'll go for another 60 or 90 days at that point. So click back in. Everything looks good. Here's our October 9th. Someday our new license is going to get pulled in the 11th. I'm excited that expires on Sunday. It won't. We renewed it. So this is probably the biggest remaining button. There's a couple things on this screen that are interesting. So we're FileMaker Server configuration, SSL tab. You can bring up the request Let's Encrypt again. Couple notes. If you want to go a couple things I want to address here. If you want to go a couple different directions, one, you already have a classic SSL and you want to move to Let's Encrypt, right? You paid for one, you want to go to the free mode. Love it. You're going to come in here and you're going to hit this delete files button, and then you're going to do your Let's Encrypt. That's it. And then, like I just did with the restart and normal systems administration tasks. First. Second, if you need to force renewal, that's here. There's a button for it. It is as advertised. Please note that isn't a button to sit there clicking all the time. I'm going to put that very generically and vaguely. There are rate limits on Let's Encrypt. They will not allow you to like reissue the same certificate over and over again. That's spamming, basically. Honestly.
Yeah, don't click the shiny button too many times.
Yeah, don't do it repeatedly. Or if you do, wait a minute or an hour, something, whatever. So that's the other big one. What's the final thing I wanted to? Last step before we go into the hard demo, schedules. So I said yes, FileMaker Server automatically renew. So there is a system script now that does that. We have a Let's Encrypt renewal script. It's called system script. There's one of these. If you guys remember this from previous streams, there's like a purge temp database. We can run garbage collection different places or close all the databases down and hard offline verify them and bring them back up. Okay. So Let's Encrypt, it's basically this right here. Renew Let's Encrypt certificate. When I mentioned earlier, the Renew Let's Encrypt on the WebDirect workers. That is the on secondary variant of this. So And then finally, they just do whatever time we did it at. It looks like it picked a slightly random time that isn't exactly the same time as I did this, which is interesting and cool. And then we do frequency every n days, and 60 days is the default. You could change that. Bump it up or bring it down, whichever makes sense. You could maybe once we get into the 4 years from now, 47-day certificates, we'll bring this down to like run every 30 days or something like that, and then it'll just be a thing that comes alongside your monthly updates or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how that's going to shake out. So, but that's it. That's the whole integration. You now have working SSL. This will just run for flatly 90 days with no me touching it. I don't have to touch anything. But like I said, 60 days from now, it'll come and renew that SSL certificate. And so sometime approximately 60 to 90 days from now, that month, someone somewhere will want to reboot this FileMaker server so that it loads up the fresh SSL. That's all. So, all right. Questions? Any or Linux?
From D, the email for auto renewal setting is linked in with the SMTP settings of FileMaker server if enabled. If renewal succeeds, it should send an email.
Oh, perfect. Great.
Cool.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
That's excellent. Yeah, I guess technically did that test incorrectly because I did not have. So when I did that test, which is why I say I didn't receive an email, I didn't have email sending from FileMaker server turned on. That's a correct statement. So
Oh, okay.
that would be why. Okay. So if it's so if it loads off of sorry to be clear for everyone watching, that is this right here. So so if you have that turned on and we do that, I just didn't because this is a demo system I'm going to throw away in 30 minutes. The we turn on email notifications for basically every single server setup I've ever done, even though that's like a mild recommendation, but I actually highly recommend it to people, even though the emails are a little, honestly, they're slightly noisy. There's a few different things that FileMaker Server complains about that I'm like, I don't know if it's really a problem. But if it's going to email you when your SSL comes up and or successfully renews, that's turn on. That's it, simply. So do that. All right, Linux.
Yes, let's off to the more difficult one.
Do Linux. Yeah. Where are we at? All right, so I have an incognito. All right, so I'm gonna what's the best way to demonstrate this? We want this one. That. How do I make it? Ha. Got it. I can use a computer. Okay, so reasons why this isn't going to work. I'm just going to put this in. That DNS entry is present. You saw it on the web page behind. You saw the other one loaded up immediately for the Windows server. This is what I referred to. Port 80 is closed on this server right now. On the FileMaker server, the Linux one that's floating out in the ether. You guys haven't seen it, obviously, but it's closed, so nothing has happened here.
Got
by HTTPS forcing port 443. Then we get the angry message from my browser telling me this is a problem, blah, blah, blah. Why is it a problem? We're going to go to certificates up here, details, and then this is the not for production use. Hey. Right? Okay. So, and it's a 1 year, it's their little temp test certificate. Fine. So I can't get into this thing. That's kind of a lie, I think. Maybe I can get into it. Is it going to let me?
Oh, testing.
Okay. Is it not? Hold on.
So you can force the unsecure connection, or?
I'm going to do something funny. I know that's what I'm. Sorry. It's a live stream. You guys are going to see some sausage. Not response. I want headers. Sausage making, sorry.
No, you're good.
So what I want to see is it forcing me? It is doing STS. So it's doing STS, but Chrome isn't blocking me. It's so interesting. Huh. Okay, this line, right, just for random bad example on an SSL stream. Sorry, guys. This web header right here, the strict transport security, is actually what, when you connect to a secure server, and the SSL is valid and good to go,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera, et cetera. Green lock. What that says is only ever use SSL to connect to this server. The max age means 1 year and includes subdomains means any subdomain on this domain. So this would be my cool company website dot let's encrypt Ubuntu dot at rcc.com. Anyway, so interesting. So we're going to log in here. Let's see if this blocks us at any point. Oops. Okay. Yes, that's correct because my password is password. Um, Google would like to tell me that I have been breached. Correct. Please do not use that password. It's a bad password. So what I wanted to demo here is this is what it looks like with. So I did nothing on this Ubuntu server. No, that's not quite true. I completed the FileMaker server installation. I rebooted the server. That's it. I've made no other changes. I never even logged into the admin console. So this is like essentially I've clicked next on the or finish on the installer, if you will. It's a Linux
Mm-hmm.
server, so it's on the command line, but that's it, right? We're there. So first thing you do is you log in and you go to the SSL. This is what I said earlier. It's going to ask you, yo, how do you want to handle SSL? And you're going to answer that question here. So if you have a classic SSL, like a GoDaddy, as I've referred to, you're going to use this top option. You're going to do import, and it's going to give you the classic dialog everyone is used to seeing. Cool. We can do Let's Encrypt. You're going to love this part. I'm not even going to do anything interesting. We're going to copy it right out of the browser. Paste. Yep. You guys know how this is going to work. Yeah.
This is nuts. This is nuts in a good way.
We're thumb twiddling. Everyone thumb twiddle with me. Yes. Oh, oh, there it is. So
Oh, that's cool. That's
yeah,
awesome. That's
that's it.
fantastic.
So like I said, this is the I don't know,
This
like
was the hard
we have
version.
we have the double modals going on here. Sorry. Whatever. That's it. That's the whole thing. So as before, and it's the same. It's the same. So you have to go in. I'm going to bring up my command line. Yep. Hey, this is our command line. I'm talking to this here. What's a good way to identify this as the right system? Let me exit and then come back. That's our IP address. Hold on. Yes. Let's encrypt Ubuntu. Let me select him. Yeah, 13 something something 162. Hey, there it is. All right, cool.
There it is. Yep.
So we log in. We're going to come in here. I'm going to be really nice to my dialogues here. And for the purposes of the demo, I'm going to click OK. We're good to go. You see actually a similar date here, right? Like we have this because it's a trial. I didn't even put the license in.
You got the Let's Encrypt before you even put in the license. That's nuts.
Yes. Like literally, we're ready. So this is that same kind of October 9th or whatever type date, 90 days from now. Perfect. Love it. We're going to do exactly one thing here. I'm going to do, this is on the command line. This is how you restart a FileMaker server from the command line on a Linux. We're going to do sudo service. We're going to address the service. The service name is FMS helper. If you guys remember the old big discussions we've done about FileMaker server architecture, there's like an angel process. So there's like one thing that administrates everything else, and everything else is FileMaker server and WebDirect and the XML API and the data API and all the little bits. It's like 12 different programs or something. FMS helper is we call it the angel process. It runs all the others. It's the first thing that starts, and then it kicks off all the sub things that make up a FileMaker server. And we're going to do restart. And then we're going to, again, aggressively thumb twiddle. You're going to see it probably blow up in the background here because my browser is still open and available. And yeah, there it
we
goes.
go.
Yep. We were waiting for the explosion. We were hoping for that. When it comes fully back up online, we should get a green. We don't get a green lock, do we? We get a gray lock, meaning no problem, I think. There used to be everything was green. FileMaker still like gives you the green lock or whatever. Browsers are moving away from it because they realized, oh, we should change the visual like expectation to be SSL, and so then they're going to yell. It's not there yet, but it will in the future yell when it's unencrypted instead of
Ah,
calling out
l-
encryption.
so because that makes encryption the default and unencryption. Okay.
Correct. The error or the weird case that we need to yell at. Yes. Yep. So and then that still says not secure. I love that. It's amazing. My browser did what it is supposed to, which is the wrong thing here. As you can see, everything is working perfectly.
It's fantastic. It's perfectly secure. It's just having a moment with the
It's
browser.
they all browsers, and actually this is an interesting. So there's a thing with Pro, even Pro does this too. A lot of applications will cache save certain parts of like SSL or other security details, either at start or on first connection or like that kind of stuff. That's the other reason why you tend to try and do demos like this in incognito mode, because that incognito mode saves those just like this, but it throws them away because you close your incognito window and that throws all that data out, right?
Ah, yep.
So like you can't actually get away with zero saved data in a browser, but you can throw it away when you're done with it. No, do not save that terrible password I have created.
Please, please do not save the
Please do
password.
not save it. Um, so we're here. Hold on, I'm gonna be funny. Where's my? There it is. Here's our. We'll do it backwards. We're gonna do the demo backwards here very quickly. You see, we have it's not yelling. It's not yelling. Okay, it's not yelling. We're going to show the lack of yelling. Perfect. Yes. All right. So we can come in here. We go details. Same thing. Looks exactly the same. You can force renew the certificate. We do not have notifications enabled, so it's not going to email me, but you should do that so that you hear about when your SSL is renewed. And then the final thing to note is schedule. Same.
There we go.
Exact same thing. 60 days. Does this renew let's encrypt default certificate, not secondary. So
This is awesome. This
that's
is
it.
like this is
Yeah.
fantastic. So,
And there's minor additional detail to cover here. This does the HTTP validation path. That's why I had to talk about port 80 and stuff like that. It's those of you who know how this is called ACME, ACME.
hmm
I think the A is automated certificate something something. I love that name, by the way. That's taking Acme as an acronym and then turning it into something real. That's the best kind of like
but
nerd joke,
I love
actually.
it's so much
Um,
fun. It's so much fun. Anyway,
yeah. But that it supports other ways to like validate control over the domain. So this uses a HTTP. It's not that I'm noting it because Claris did not integrate any of the other ways. Um, uses the HTTP. Those of you who are knowledgeable know there are other ways to do it. DNS is a common one. There's even, I think there's some kind of an API variant as well where there's some kind of, you sign different things and do some math and stuff like that where you go back and forth. But in any case, the Acme, the Let's Encrypt that Claris integrated for us in FileMaker Server is the HTTP validation path. And that works great for most things, but and that's why I talked about this at the top of the hour. The biggest implication is the FileMaker Server through a proxy, through some path. That part, is a little negotiable. Network nerds know, but it has to be accessible to like the broader internet in some way, because they have to be able to come in, get that code that they gave you to validate control for the SSL that they're going to give you, and then go back and forth. And then at the end, your FileMaker server, even if you're in an otherwise locked down, network scenario, your FileMaker server will reach out, get the certificate from them, and then install it. You could probably, if that was, I would find the monetary payoff not worth it. But if it was important to an organization, you could probably do most of that in an offline manner, except for the part where you're going to have to warm up the connection to the FileMaker server for the actual get the SSL part, and then the renewals. So if you like Claris does on Linux, open the firewall, do the validation, get the stuff. install it, close the firewall. You can probably do that. I know there's a pathway that people do that with license certificates currently, actually, because they're I don't know who. My guess is large government agencies, but their FileMaker servers are completely offline. Like actually, not just me making a joke about posting things in Amazon and then calling them offline, because I think that's kind of funny. Um, putting it inside a VPN so no one can access it, but it's like hosted on the cloud, you know. Anyway, I think it's funny to call things like that offline, because they are kind of. Um, anyway, there's like big agencies and big orgs and stuff like that they control every last connection that comes into or out of their networks, and so they're not going to allow, for example, a FileMaker server to phone home to Claris, and so they have to go monthly and install a license certificate into their FileMaker server. There are versions of this that are like that. I strongly suspect those organizations are either going to issue their own SSL certificates because they have that kind of control, or they're going to be paying somebody the normal way. So. Um,
What about CSR slash
Rec,
certs from an
yeah,
on-prem CA? Is this out of scope?
I would call that out of scope for this. Yeah. Um, that will, that actually should work for what I'm going to call classic SSLs, not Let's Encrypt kind. Yeah. Um, I think the certificate authority has to be installed everywhere. So you're going to need to take your moment to go install your CA, your root, your local root that you've made on your FileMaker server. Um, I think, um, yeah, yes, yeah. There's I'm trying to think, there's an option related to that. I think it's command line only actually from 19.3, for FileMaker server 19.3, 19.3.3, that let you turn off the, what are those things called? Certificate, it's called. It's an expiration notice. Basically, when you invalidate a certificate, there's a list, CRLs, certificate revocation lists. Yes. So there is a sorry, I'm having to break the cobwebs out here. There's a setting somewhere in the command line where you can disable CRL validation, which may be helpful for you if you're on site and running your own CA and stuff like that. You may wish to explore that option. So
There you go. And then I'll round up today with the good old traditional question we get at every
should we
release.
use it now?
Yes. Should we start using FileMaker 2025 now or wait a couple of weeks?
Excellent question. So, our advice is both exactly as it has always been and also unchanging, which is repeating myself to be funny and mostly for comedic effect. So when new versions of FileMaker come out in general, unless we have specific concerns, we usually say try out Pro, try out Go. In this specific case, this is a specific consideration. Be careful of your versions. The reason I say that is because 2025 Pro Go, whatever you're using, can only talk to a 21 or 22 server. 22 current, 22 is the one previous version. 20 is still in market. That is FileMaker 2023 if you are using the year version numbers. FileMaker 2025 cannot talk to FileMaker 2023. That is the biggest note there. But if you have a 21 server, 2024, good to go. Try it. Try Pro. Try Go. See if you have issues. Please yell at Claris if you do. Thanks. Server, you are welcome to wait a couple of weeks. If you see specific new functionality in the product that is very interesting and you want to move immediately, and waiting 2 weeks would be too long, please upgrade. Again, I have to repeat the first thing that I said though. If you go to 2025 server, 2024 and 25 are the only two versions of FileMaker clients, Pro and Go mostly, that can talk to your server. Be careful of that. If you're on WebDirect, you'll just get a fresh version. Browsers are browsers, they update, whatever. You don't really care too much in that case. But Pro and Go cross compatibility is a much bigger concern because if it doesn't exist, in other words, the versions aren't compatible, you will be told to F off. You will be told you cannot connect. This version of FileMaker is not supported. You won't be able to get into your job. So that's a big issue if you find yourself in that situation. So
There you go. All right. I think I'm free to let you go, Jacob. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everyone for showing up. This is actually a really great new feature or
yeah,
improved feature
that's why I said I'm excited. It's 80 to $100 a year.
that you
And
no
this
longer have to
is,
pay.
yeah, that you no longer have to pay. That with the really good Linux support these days, like the cost curve for, like, I know people want to pay Claris for licensing and stuff like that. We're not mad about that, but like that, the outside of those types of costs, the actual operational costs of the software itself also keep being driven down, and that's excellent. That's excellent news.
Which is awesome.
It's
Makes it more accessible.
Yeah, O&M is tremendous for computing systems. A lot of people don't. Ooh, nice. A lot of people don't like fully calculate uh, the O&M secondary costs. They're like, oh, how much does a server cost? And they're like, cool, writing $5,000 for a new server or whatever, or $100 for an SSL. Like those are
Hmm.
flat costs that they can just look at. Um, this kind of stuff is like background noise costs, and taking each next one of those off, kick the Windows licensing out of the fees. We're on Linux now. Okay, cool. Uh, kick SSL out of the is just one more thing that, like,
Yes.
it's another general reduction in the cost of the platform. That's good stuff all day. So
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, it was blisteringly easy to use. So
yeah,
thank you very much, Jacob, for showing it off. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Claris Engineering, for adding it. Uh, Hope y'all have a lovely day. And I will see you on Monday for more adventures. With who specifically is on Monday? Oh, okay, that'll be fun. We'll have Robert and Clay post the Claris Q&A. So you all should come to that. Because that'll be awesome. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.